Bakit? Buksan ang video.
Kaya buksan. Wala pa.
Wala pa. Okay.
Resilience is the ability to persist over time.
In the Manila Bay and other bays that experience red tides, it is the marginalized that is affected in health and in economy.
The engineering is the ability to absorb, thrive, and then recover. The faster you're able to recover, the more resilient.
Sa Pilipino, ito ay katibayan at katatagan sa mahirap na sitwasyon at ang kakayahang bumangon muli.
Yung ecological naman, the ability to adapt. Yung evolutionary resilience, vale, to really innovate and be creative.
Resilience is really being able to spring back from adversity, but it should have learning, and therefore it strengthens you to be more resilient than before the adversity came to you.
Before COVID-19, the Philippines was already on to SMT-based measures to improve its resilience capacity. With COVID, the country was awakened to the need for resilience of our economic, health, and educational status as well.
The country as a whole is, I think, not so resilient because while we have the capabilities, the opportunities, and the resources to cope with COVID-19, the whole body is suffering because the leadership and management is not working so well. When it comes to individual resilience, those who have more resources, capabilities, and opportunities will be more resilient than those who are not.
A lot of the problems really may be interconnected, vale. You have to look at it from a holistic point of view. It encompasses more than natural sciences or physical problem, vale, but also it gets into the ecological, biological, as well as social pa nga.
Among issues and problems we have are poverty, ecosystem destruction, climate change, and variability.
Much of our attention is placed only after the disasters happen. What we should do really is to take early action years before the hazard strikes, and we should put our attention and our resources into that type of planning.
We need SMT-based transdisciplinary and inclusive approach to coping with possible hazards.
The fragmentation of society needs to be resolved for resilience.
Communication is very, very important, and we should communicate to the people using not just scientific communication means, but through arts, music, understand the mindset of the Filipino people so we can communicate better.
Well, the way to move forward is interoperability.
So we have to do a lot of work as a person, as a community, and as an institution to really have resilience as one of the values of the Filipinos. Yung tunay na resilience na towards improvement.
Building resilience requires sustainability science inspired by transdisciplinary approach.
To be sustainable, you have to be resilient. To be resilient, you have to be sustainable.
Go natural, go with nature's flow. Non-structural or natural interventions, as well as good planning, is the most sustainable.
Finally, we need to harness and strengthen the Filipino spirit of bayanihan.
Pero dahil kami ay nasa akademiko,
Kailangan
pinag-aaralan namin
natin
yung
matingnan
mga...
kung ano talaga ang kailangan natin not only for ourselves, but for a people as a whole.
Resilience ng mga Pilipino towards the collective effort among communities
Not to blame anybody.
and the strengthening of
Resilience Live.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to the 21st episode of Resilience Live. My name is FJ, and I'm your host for today. The Resilience Live webinar series is brought to you by the UP Resilience Institute NOAA Center. We are thrilled to have participants from our esteemed partner organizations with us here today. Hello naman sa inyo. To help us acknowledge your presence, please feel free to send a message in the chat box or use the reaction feature to say hello. Let's now take a moment to recognize our partners for this episode. Aqua Klima Incorporated, Angat Kalikasan, Pilipinas, Association of Filipino Forestry Students, UPLB, Association of Geologists and Geological Engineers of Mapua, Association of Viscan Environmental Science Students, Ateneo Institute of Sustainability, Biology Society, LPU Laguna, Center for Hazard and Environmental Resource Mapping, Southern Luzon State University, Communities for Resilience Incorporated, Earth Island Institute, PH, Ecolaya Environmental Advocates, Environmental Science for Social Change, Future Earth Philippines, Geographic Society of the University of the Philippines, Geological Organization of Partido State University, Mapua Malayan Colleges, Laguna, United Architects of the Philippines, UP Human Ecology Student Society, UP Resilience Institute Youth Mappers, UP Society of Human Settlements Planners, UPLB Interdisciplinary Study Center for Integrated Natural Resources and Environment Management, and UNESCO International Geoscience Program. Without these partners, today's episode would not be possible. Every April, we celebrate the month of Planet Earth, and for this episode, we will discuss the transition of nature-based solutions from policy concepts to operational practice in the context of local water supply management. Our speaker is currently the Managing Director of Aqua Klima Incorporated and a water governance and climate adaptation specialist with over 13 years of experience. He has worked with organizations such as the Asian Development Bank, United Nations Development Program, World Bank, and UNICEF, Mr. Worldwide nga, on projects related to water security, climate resilience, and sustainable development. He also serves as a lecturer at the De La Salle University and holds a Master of Science in Water Management and Governance from IHE Delft. Let's all welcome our speaker, Sir Aman or Aman Shumalad III. Ayan. Hello po, Sir Aman.
Hello po. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Magandang araw po sa ating lahat. And for those who are also tuning in for this 21st episode of Resilience Live, welcome to this specific session. So first, Aqua Klima Incorporated would wish then to extend our gratitude for this continuing partnership with UP Resilience Institute and our co-partners for this advocacy work together. This afternoon, Aqua Klima presents work specifically in the intersection of two specific urgent perspectives. The first perspective is to look at the Philippines' escalating climate risk, as noted by FJ, and looking at number two, the policy frameworks we already have that can respond to it. And then we tried then to look at how we can have this implementation on the ground in the case of the Philippines. We are here this afternoon not proposing a new theory. So we are showing how existing international, national, and regional plans are asking for what exactly the kind of interventions we are designing for two specific areas. The first one is the Freeport area in Bataan, and later on we'll have a case in Negros Oriental, particularly for Bayawan. So at the end of the session, the case for implementing nature-based solutions, as what we call it NBS right now, at both sites should be grounded not just in the environmental logic, but also to look into the policy mandates, the technical feasibility, and of course, the international and local validation on the ground. So in the next slide, we note that why do we have to implement nature-based solutions? So the Philippines, as we know, is the most disaster-exposed country in the planet. In fact, the numbers on the slide represents real documented losses that have shaped communities across the archipelago. So let's take, for example, the Philippines absorbs about 20 typhoons every year and is ranked third globally in terms of the World Risk Index. So coupled with the idea that half of the country's mangrove cover has been lost since 1918. We note that mangroves are the primary coastal storm buffer, and this is also an infrastructure failure. That's why NBS, as we note, can help support on terms of the financial toll. So we note that, let's say, for example, for 2011 to 2021, 673 billion pesos is being damaged, or part of the damages and losses from the disasters that we experience. And the highlighted areas show where the Typhoon Haiyan, Odette, and tropical storm Sendong struck. So these are not just isolated cases. These are the fraction of a wider pattern. So the NBS argument that we wanted to present with Aqua Klima is that there are different definitions internationally. First, we have the UNEA definition, which tells us that the NBS are actions that protect, restore, and sustainably manage ecosystems to address societal challenges while delivering benefits for both people and nature. The IUCN, or the International Union of the Conservation of Nature standards, adds that a good NBS is more than just a project and a green initiative. It is a robust, equitable, and a sustainable intervention. Now, the question for the Philippines is that, ma-implement ba natin itong NBS, or na-implement na ba natin siya before? So the evidence is ambiguous. Now the question is, why is implementing NBS in the status quo and its scale and the quality of the situation is needed right now? So these are the types of NBS, establishing from the previous slide the reasons why. Now this gives you the vocabulary on how we can implement this. These are the key entry points in terms of the nature-based solutions. First, to protect. It's about conservation and maintenance of existing ecosystems. Number two, we're talking about restoration, talking about the degraded or lost ecosystems that are rebuilt, or new green systems that are created in an already modified landscape. So urban wetlands, the spongitis concept, drainage systems, river restoration, green roofs, these are some of the examples that we can try then to implement in terms of the restoration process. And lastly, in terms of sustainably managing these kind of interventions, we're in the working landscapes in ways that enhance rather than degrade the ecosystem function. So in all of these, we have seen in the two sites that we're trying then also to propose some interventions is that they all work together. The protection still remains. The restoration is still there for the lost ecosystems or biological ecosystems that are there, and rethinking how the working landscape is managed. So in the next slide, we'll take it a little bit further in terms of how we try then to put it in the context of the ASEAN, or the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So as Philippines is part of it, we tried then to have and to note that the European Union has also funded a platform. So this is also co-managed by the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, which catalogs the nature-based solutions across Southeast Asia. So several of the specific methods we can use in the FAB and also the Bayawan case that we will be presenting this afternoon, and these are formally cataloged already in the platform. So we are not doing something experimental here. We are doing what the ASEAN, the EU, the ICN have identified as proven and scalable practice. So in terms of the landscape category mapping, you can see in this particular slides, the green and blue eco-industrial areas and ports, the regenerative agriculture that needs to be there in terms of the NBS implementation, the flood-responsive riverine landscapes, and you talk about the adaptive coastal mangroves, and the healthy forests and natural habitats. So all of these would then try then to have an impact in terms of having a climate smart and resilient city, such that in the case that we'll be presenting this afternoon. So the challenge now in terms of the sites is that when you have these defined societal challenges, how we try them to solve, and this would be the basis for the eligibility of this IUCN-aligned climate and biodiversity finance for these specific projects. So what we did with Aqua Klima, as you will be seeing in the next slide, is that we did this benchmarking activities. So the designs that we hoped then to be implemented with FAB and that of Bayawan did not emerge from ADES. This slide shows how Aqua Klima has been doing and learning directly in person from the places that have already implemented these kinds of intervention we are trying to propose. As you can see in this slide, we have done benchmarking activities in the European Union, particularly in the Netherlands, looking at urban ecosystems. They're all based in southern France for agricultural ecosystems. And zooming near to our region, in the Asia-Pacific region, in the Middle East, looking at coastal ecosystems in Abu Dhabi, looking at different projects that have been implemented in our neighbors in the Southeast Asian region, particularly in Benjakhiti Forest, in that of Thailand, and also for the urban ecosystems and coastal and marine ecosystems in India, and for the coastal and marine ecosystems in Indonesia. And we have also been learning from the proponents of the spontaneity concept by going into the different cases of what we've seen in Hainan in People's Republic in China. So as you can see here, the point is that the nature-based solutions are not aspirational references. These are sites that the team has visited, studied, and drawn design principles from. And the methods we are hoping to propose for FAB and Bayawan are grounded in this what already work elsewhere, and we just have to adapt it into the Philippine conditions. So zooming into the context of the Philippines, as you can see, this is quite verbose in terms of the specific slide, but this would tell you about the national and the regional priorities. So what we did with Aqua Klima is that we tried them to align with the existing plans that exist at the national and regional levels. Let's take, for example, the Philippine Development Plan, or the PDP, and also the Central Luzon Regional Development Plan, and the Negros Island Regional Development Plan, or the RDPs, which have the same interventions. So for the cases that will be providing some insights later on, these are field implementation of what DepDev regional offices as well for Region 3 and also the NIR are calling for. And this is not just a generous interpretation of policy. The language is very specific. Let's take, for example, the context of climate and disaster resilience in terms of the Philippine Development Plan. It explicitly names green-gray infrastructure, which are also NBS. In terms of ecosystem restoration, for example, the Central Luzon RDP talks about the Ridge to Reef Integrated Ecosystem Framework, which also commits to the very principle of nature-based solutions. And recently, other national government agencies have been also pondering on the point of green spaces, water quality, and governance, as also espoused in this regional context. So the question now is, where do we see these policies moving towards from policy to implementation, which is the core value of this specific session? So on the next slide, you will see that we can argue that the projects are policy aligned. We just need to be honest about the state of NBS in the Philippine policy itself. So what we did with the Aqua Klima is that we reviewed 96 Philippine policies. We noted that from these policies, only 5 explicitly mention nature-based solutions by name. It probably because 78 of these 96 policies predate the 2022 UNEA definition, the current international standard. The policy language as well was largely designed without the conceptual clarity that NBS provides. So in the recent interjection and also participation of Aqua Klima in the IUCN Congress last year in Abu Dhabi, we also have seen the second iteration of the IEC and global standards on NBS. And the net effect on this specific policy is that there needs to be an alignment in terms of the NBS objectives that tend to prescribe activities without clearly defining what ecosystem service outcomes are and who are the intended beneficiaries and what are the responsibilities of implementing actors. So what we're doing right now is actually an opportunity and not a gap. We see in Aqua Klima, and I hope the rest of our partners and also the listeners in this particular episode would see that these activities are already mandated. Let's say we'll talk about reforestation, coastal rehabilitation, watershed management. These are not new things. What is missing is how we try them to integrate the design logic that the NBS provides. So the cases that we'll be presenting this afternoon, particularly for FAB and Bayawan, can be demonstrations of what it looks like when we apply the logic to existing mandates. So in the next slide, we see that there are core gap sources. Talking about the fragmented network framework, we know that about the water sector, the weak enforcement of certain policies and monitoring tools, for example, in projects that exist in the status code, that of Lawin, for example, that lack enforcement authority without zoning and legal backing. The limited private sector support in terms of the ESG reporting, which is voluntary at the moment, and looking at the financing gaps, wherein the national NBS finance framework is still lacking. So the unclear land tenure and carbon rights deter these investments, particularly for small-scale projects that face disproportionately high transaction cost. And lastly, there are no yet unified standards. Without these agreed criteria, there would be certain interventions from different agencies that may label gray infrastructure as NBS, while legitimate NBS interventions go unrecognized in the planning systems. So what we are pointing out in this conversation is that why the specific cases for FAB and Bayawan matters. These gaps are precisely why demonstration projects like ours can matter in terms of the public implementation. In terms of generating the evidence, the replication models, and the implementation track record that the systematic gap needs to be addressed. And these are not separate from the policy problem. They are part and should be in the solution. So you will be seeing in the next slides how we are proposing to implement these specific cases. For the free airport of Bataan, we noted that these are the characteristic in terms of its land use, in terms of its population, and the watershed function, which focuses on the support to industrial and domestic water supply for marine biodiversity, fisheries and livelihoods, flood regulation, and ecotourism. These are not future aspirations. These are also existing services that may somehow be undocumented with pressures coming from different hazards and risk. So FAB also sits, as you can see in this particular slide, in the Manila Bay interface. It is an upstream of one of the country's most regulated coastal environments, downstream the Bataan Forest Land, a critical node for both coastal water quality and watershed management. So what we are doing with AquaClima is that we have participated in different fora with PEZA during the Water Forum in last year, wherein AquaClima interjected manifestations on the sessions that have the facilitation wherein nature-based solutions approaches can be relevant to industrial water management and ecozones. And there are ongoing discussions right now with the PEZA management to explore possible entry points for NBS integration within ecozones operational and environmental programs. On the next slide, you will see what is it in Bayawan, in Negros Oriental. The second site is in Bayawan City. So we are looking at now the map, which shows both the possession of within the Visayas and the internal land use pattern. So which is predominantly agricultural and forested, with river systems and coastal interface facing the Tanon Strait. So the key characteristic of this is that the watershed context is quite complex. So it traverses to Tabagatpan, Bayawan, and Colamboyan systems that feed into the city's agricultural hinterland, its domestic water supply, and the coastal zones. And there are also these watershed services, domestic and agricultural water supply, and looking at the flood regulation and farming and ecotourism livelihoods. So we say, therefore, that the dependency on the functional watershed ecosystems here is more direct and visible for this second case. So as updates to our NBS engagement, we conducted initial discussions with Bayawan City Water District. I believe a few of them are actually in this particular meeting or gathering right now. And also in coordination with the Philippine Association of Water Districts on water resource challenges and potential NBS opportunities within the watershed. There also had been stakeholder consultations that have been carried out with relevant local actors to validate these NBS that we are hoping to prioritize and the site conditions on the ground. And Bayawan City has been included as a pilot area in the project proposal. We are working and have submitted to the CHED SDG grant call along with other identified pilot sites, positioning it as a potential academic and research partnership support. So on the next slide, you will see the interactive map. So this would invite the audience to engage directly with the Google Earth engine land cover map, which is a tool that allows to toggle between the satellite imagery and also the classified land use cover. So it shows the split view of the FAB on the left and also the satellite imagery showing the bay, industrial area, and the remaining green patches on the right, which shows the world cover in 2021 classification, making visible the distribution of tree cover, built-up areas, mangrove, and herbaceous wetlands. So the link is also accessible to anyone, as you can see in the slide right now. And this is talking about how spatial literacy is what underpins our site assessments and NBS placement decisions. So you will see in the next slides the environmental problems in the two sites. The first one is about the free airport in Bataan. There exists marine pollution and oil spills, specifically for 2024. You can see the habitat loss and coastal reclamation, which is also happening in the area, specifically between 2012 and 2016, which is 60% loss in terms of the 4 years, let's say, time frame. You're talking about stormwater and groundwater depletion, wherein the large impervious surfaces on this industrial zone reduce infiltration. And lastly, in terms of the industrial effluent and the water quality, wherein industrial wastewater and heavy metals degrade the coastal water quality. On the next slide, you will see the environmental problems that we see with Bayawan City. So we selected it through the multi-criteria analysis, or the MCA, which we already implemented with Aqua Klima, and structured it around hazard reduction, which covers the coastal and river flooding, erosion, and damage prevention, the social impact, implementation feasibility, and the environmental impact. And this is supported by spatial analysis, land use analysis, and land cover mapping, and the records that shows. And this is not an arbitrary choice. So we wanted to make sure that all of these aspects are being integrated into this MCA, or this multi-criteria analysis. So these are the key environmental problems, like climate change and erratic rainfall. So in 2013, for example, the flood event that has been documented by the DNR, it affected multiple barangays and caused substantial damage. There are also the risk of deforestation and upland encroachment, agricultural expansion and soil degradation, and unregulated settlements and quarrying, wherein the urban sprawl into the buffer zones causes habitat loss and water quality issues. So we note that there is this institutional readiness, specifically for Bayawan, in terms of the demonstration of institutional readiness using the MCA criteria. So the city has a forest land use plan, co-formulated with the DNR, and there's an executive order and the local climate change action plan under RA 9729, wherein both explicitly prioritize watershed rehabilitation and ecosystem approaches. So in the next slide, this is just how we did it simplistically, but it went into the iterative process of having this MCA for the NBS and the site selection. So the MCA evaluates each site for 4 criteria groups: hazard reduction, as I've mentioned a while ago, social dimension, you talk about implementation feasibility, and also the environmental impact. The scoring uses the plus, so ito po yung dalawang plus sign, which shows the high relevance or suitability, and one plus sign would be the moderate impact of it as an indicative at this stage. So a full MCA will be conducted during the baseline phase, should the resources also permit for us then to do this on the ground. So what we see from the key takeaways is that the FAB scores highest in terms of coastal flooding reduction and technical feasibility, reflecting the industrial coastal context and available land for engineered NBS. So both sites also score consistently in terms of environmental impact, potential, and institutional complexity, confirming that neither is a simple plug-and-play scenario. So both require careful governance and technical design. So from us in Aqua Klima, why it matters is that using this MCA signals to partners, funding institutions, or government counterparts that site method selection was rigorous and not opportunistic. It also establishes that the baseline logic that can be defined as field data is to be collected for year 1. And we have also developed this MCA applying the IUCN 8 principles to ensure both sites meet international standards for quality NBS design. So in the next slide, we will be seeing the implementation plan. So subject to resource availability, the program follows this specific phase 3-year implementation strategy for specific sites designed to ensure readiness, efficient execution, and long-term sustainability. Each phase has a clear strategic focus and defined outputs. So as you can see on the slide, we have year 1, which also includes the planning and design, the conduct of baseline studies and diagnostic at both sites, complete technical design and feasibility assessments, the undertaking of stakeholder coordination and community engagement, and to finalize work planning, mobilization, procurement, and readiness activities. For year 2, should there be some resources, the execution will be as follows: to implement these priority NBS interventions on the ground, to carry out site development and rehabilitation works, to run community participation activities throughout implementation, and lastly, to install monitoring systems and conduct mid-year performance review. And for year 3, it's about sustainability and expansion, looking at the validation performance and measure impact against the baseline, to pursue institutional adoption measures to embed NBS into the local governance, and lastly, to develop sustainability plans and replication and a scale-up strategy for other sites. So the broader point is that it reflects the IECN standards emphasis on adaptive management. So as you can see in the next slides, we will be showing some of the proposed NBS. So let's start with FAB, wherein this is a rain garden. This addresses the stormwater and groundwater problem directly. In the ASEAN NBS platform, we've also noted that this is cataloged as an urban stormwater management solution. It is also a green-gray infrastructure as referenced in our Philippine Development Plan, the engineered drainage component combined with the natural filtration of vegetated media. So the placement of this would be upslope, wherein before water reaches to the coast, it is the critical point, wherein it caches the pollutants before they enter into the Manila Bay watershed. When we talk about mangrove restoration in the area, we're looking at 60% of the mangrove loss that we have mentioned earlier. So what this mangrove restoration provides would be water filtration, nursery habitats for fish, and protection for storm surge. It also prepositions FAB ahead of the ICM, or the Integrated Coastal Management Bill Mangrove Greenbelt Zone requirements. We have also aligned it with the ASEAN NBS platform, wherein classifies under the adaptive coastal mangroves, a proven method with documented co-benefits for fisheries, carbon sequestration, and coastal resilience, which shows the co-benefits of NBS interventions. On the next slide, it's a continuation of what can be done in terms of the FAB, in terms of the constructed wetland. So this is not a speculative technology. Constructed wetlands are there as a standard treatment approach, cataloged as well with the ASEAN NBS platform. The key innovation at FAB can be that it integrates into the industrial zone's draining structure rather than treating it as a standalone ecological feature. And of course, it's connected with Manila Bay. So the Central Luzon Regional Development Plan documents 36 track water bodies in Manila Bay, and FAB's industrial discharge is a direct contributor to these quality metrics. So a constructed wetland at FAB is a quantifiable Manila Bay rehabilitation intervention as well. So in terms of the living shoreline, it's the coastal complementation to the bioretention cell inland, wherein together they can do the ridge to reef logic and the CLRDP, managing the full path from upland runoff capture to coastal buffering, and that the living shorelines also create a habitat. So as the shoreline stabilizes, we know for a fact that it becomes a nursery ground for marine species, supporting the fishery livelihoods that were damaged in the recent 2024 oil spill. So going now into the next slide, we have the proposed NBS for the Bayawan City. So looking at the design response into the watershed scale problems that are being documented earlier. So these methods are operating in two scales. Number one, in terms of the urban design interface, and number two, in terms of the agricultural landscape. So we are now encountering the terms like bioswale or the rain swale, or part of the sponge city concept, wherein the sponge city principle tells us that the design level, the urban fabric is to absorb water rather than to shed it. In Bayawan's context, this addresses both flood risk reduction and water quality improvement before it discharges into the Pagatban or Bayawan rivers. In the ASEAN platform category, it's also part of the landscape category, where it positions Bayawan as a flood-responsive riverine landscape intervention aligned as well with the regional development plans, specifically for the Green program targets. Next is about agroforestry. So the trees in agroforestry system talks about how it tries then to retain the water in the soil, reduce erosion, and provide shade that moderates the microclimate for crops and livelihoods. At the same time, they also sequester carbon and increase biodiversity above monoculture systems. And for farming communities, this is very essential. We know for a fact that agroforestry is a livelihood intervention for biodiversity-friendly enterprises as well, as it diversifies income through timber, fruit, and integrated livestock, which is also part of the ASEAN regenerative agriculture landscape category. So the next slide will talk about more of these interventions, particularly for reforestation and watershed revegetation. What happens then is that there would be reforestation in these particular watersheds that directly reduces flood intensity in downstream barangays. For example, during the 2013 flood event in the area, which is the documented baseline, the goal is to have a measurable reduction in the peak flow and the siltation load that happened years ago. So in the same breath, we are looking at the intervention that builds climate resilience against compound hazards, including water system fragility exposed in the 2025 Mount Kanlaon eruption. So we are also proposing this permeable pavement in Bayawan's urban core and road network, wherein conventional and impervious surfaces shed rainfall into the drainage systems and rivers. So permeable pavement as well, whether porous material or space non-porous blocks, which would then enable the storm water to flow through the surface, reducing peak flow and providing initial filtration as an entry point. So in the end, we're trying to combine this bioswale network, permeable, which completes the urban storm management system and captures at source, channeling slowly through the vegetated corridors and reducing the total load on the river system. So what is next now in terms of the policy enhancement and the ways forward? So we have seen in the previous minutes that the FAB and Bayawan are ready for on-ground implementation. The policy framework is already aligned. The methods are benchmarked and proven. What we need now is institutional support in terms of the resources. We are specifically requesting for certain support for us to implement this on both sides, to provide some technical assistance and institutional support, or can be part of this potential integration into the research development agenda of certain institutions. So this is not just a collaboration request. It is an invitation to take the lead, and hopefully Aqua Klima can help further this advocacy in implementing this on the ground as contracted research and implementation partner. So here are some of the policy recommendations in terms of the long-term policy certainty, in terms of the expansion of the market-based financing, particularly for NBS-specific initiatives, such that of the use of green bonds, hopefully, strengthening and harmonizing the tenure rights of those in the upland communities, particularly for indigenous people and vulnerable groups, the strengthening of institutional coordination, wherein it tries them to have this NBS coordinating authority or someone that can be establishing these at the level at the national and down to our local levels. This is already being done, but it's not yet finalized in terms of the development of a standardized NBS metrics and hopefully to enhance LGU localization and enforcement. So the connection is very clear that the both sides are designed with this policy agenda in mind. They are generating the evidence base, and the replication models would follow if such resources would also be integrated in a more comprehensive, in a more holistic, in a whole of society and whole of government approach. So in this implementation exercise, we are looking at these 6 recommendations. And on the next slide, I would just like them to acknowledge the team from Aqua Klima who has been contributing to the success of this partnership, ongoing partnership with UPRI for at least a year, or hopefully more than a year. So thank you, multidisciplinary specialists, economists, engineers, scientists, policy and governance experts, and legal acumen that comes from the team that made this presentation possible. So in the end, on the next slide, thank you very much for your time and attention. The case today may have 3 foundations. Number 1, the documented urgency on the Philippines' climate and ecological situation. Number 2, the specific mandates in the national, regional plans that are already calling for these interventions. And number 3, the international validation that there is with ASEAN, with IUCN that provides for these methods. And for these areas, they are just ready. We're looking for certain support, but the policy framework are already aligned. The benchmark methods are proven. The site selection have been rigorous. What we need now is commitment to move planning to implementation. And we look forward to your questions and a more fruitful conversation as I end this presentation. Thank you and good day to everyone. Maraming salamat.
Ayan. Thank you po, Sir Aman, for that wonderful presentation on the translation of nature-based solutions into site-specific and implementable designs. So, napaka-importante nga naman no ng topic na tong NBS, especially now na it is the time of a worsening climate crisis brought about by environmental degradation. And ayun, nature-based solutions are all the more essential in yung protection and yung pagmamanage ng ating mga ever-decreasing ecological systems. We can see that government policies have incorporated, ayun nga, yung mga NBS, lalo na yung mga objectives sila, but as Sir's presentation reveals, hindi lang din to enough. There has to be unified framework then and standards, better enforcement, funding, etc. to ensure proper implementation ng NBS. Sayang lang naman, no, kung para lang din sa wala ang mga eto. Sayang kung walang, like in a relationship, commitment. So, nevertheless, these NBS projects in Bataan Freeport Zone, sorry, and Bayawan City are a step forward in actualizing climate resilience through sustainable methods. I'm sure our audience has learned a lot about the topic, but I'm also certain that many have their own thoughts and questions. So at this point, we will be opening the floor for any questions our attendees may have. Please press the react button to raise your hand and wait for me to call your name and unmute you before speaking. If you're too shy for the mic, we will also entertain questions sent to the chat box. Those watching through Facebook Live or YouTube may also send their questions below. So, ayan. Do we have a question from the audience here today? May naka-raise hand na ba? Ayan, we have here from April Tagalan.
Hi, magandang hapon po. I'm April from UPRI. We would just like to commend our speaker and Aqua Klima for their work. Nung presentation, what really stood out to me is the rigor of Aqua Klima's methodology. Kitang-kita na well thought out siya and hindi lang tinitingnan yung nature-based solutions and isolation, but it also considers broader dimensions. That's very commendable kasi it shows na these interventions are part of a bigger system of risk and resilience. And also, it also echoes yung one of UPRI's core principle na never approaching climate change and disaster solutions in isolation. Dapat tinitingnan siya as a system as a whole. So this really resonates with us in terms of how science can be translated into something actionable and responsive, syempre, to the local context. So with that, maraming salamat, sir, for being our speaker today.
Ayan, thank you. Ayan, that was a manifestation from April. Do we have another raised hand here from Stephen John Melendez? Please, you may unmute yourself. Sir Steven, I think pwede na pong mag-unmute. We have an interesting okay, let's wait for si Sir Steven to to manifest yung question nila. But we have an interesting pala dito, Sir Aman, from the chat. This is from Hugh Milner. Sabi raw, good afternoon everyone. Greetings daw from Thailand. I think it is important to understand the difference between NBS and interventions for good environmental or water management to know what is a nature-based solution and what is not NBS. So there's question, it ends with a question, refer to IUCN standard daw. Ayan.
Yes, thank you for the question from Thailand. So the IUCN Global Standards on NBS tries then to pinpoint what would be the high quality standard NBS, which are also impactful. So it looks into the 8 principles. So this has also been presented last year during the recently concluded IUC and Congress, wherein it tells you that there would be some checklists from the 8 principles, and there would be certain indicators to say that this is a high quality, impactful project that you wanted to implement as NBS. So it depends on how the different local communities and the stakeholders would then implement the project. So, but what is more apparent in terms of the discussion at the international level is that it needs to be multidisciplinary. So it's not just anymore the time of the civil engineers knowing just about the green infrastructure. We also need to put on into the to the discussion to make sure that there's the seat at the table, particularly for the vulnerable groups that are part of this iterative process, looking at the contribution of the environmentalists, looking at the perspective from policy and also to the implementation of it on the ground, and linking it in terms of the finance aspect. So all of these would look at how sustainability would be, let's say, an indicator towards this highly impact and highly implementable projects, NBS, that we have right now in terms of project implementation.
Ayan, we have another question from the chat. Private daw ito. Nahihiya ata tanong. Is it possible daw po to get the presentation, your presentation, sir, after the session? Pwede ba naming, pwede bang i-share?
Yes, of course. Well, Aqua Klima would be happy then to share the slides with the participants, and of course, with the permission of our partner, UPRI. Of course, would be happy then to have this conversation and continue the discussion. So,
ayan.
May mga nagda-direct message din po. I'll be providing the answers na lang po privately din. But I believe that there would be some more questions, Sir FJ.
Ayan. We have our next question is, NBS can be urban context. What is your opinion on truly categorizing a workable NBS? Oh, for those with green roofing, we also need to check the LCA. What do you think about this? Whether we verge on something as greenwashing? Yung mic niyo po, Sir Ahmed.
Yeah. So I'll put the premise that nature-based solutions can cover different sectors, and yun yung understanding. Sometimes we put categories, but I think the best way for us then to say whether it's good as an implementation, it's on the entry points of NBS. So number one is to protect ecosystems. Number two is to restore what has been, let's say, degraded in terms of our ecosystems. And lastly, in terms of the sustainable use for these various ecosystems, particularly for urban ecosystems. And in the case of the Philippines, it's more apparent because we have coastal and coastal communities. So, which is also part of how we try then to sustainably manage these specific interventions. On the next question on trying to verge on something as greenwashing, yeah, this is a good question because actually my research with IHE Delft is also tackling on providing an assessment tool to in terms of greenwashing in infrastructure programs and projects. And my case study was in Bangladesh. So we look at the BDP 2100. So pinpointing, let's say, the interventions na dapat makatulong in terms of climate adaptation and also for climate mitigation. But it comes to a point on how, let's say, the national government would try then to also filter these programs and projects. As we may know, for example, in the case of the Philippines, it goes through a very rigorous process before you get to approve a project worth 15 billion pesos, for example. It goes through a very tedious, multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach before it gets signed by the president. So I believe for the greenwashing aspect, this might happen, of course, at the site level. But of course, what we're doing right now, we're also being involved in little monitoring and evaluation and learning projects, looking at how these NBS interventions are being applied. So it comes to a point on how we can therefore look at the platform on knowledge sharing. So this is one also of the recommendations of another ongoing study that we are doing with another development partner. So Tama po. So in terms of the checking of these in terms of the standards for the LCA, for example, and for such things like greenwashing, mapapansin po natin yan. Ako po palagi kong tinitignan when we are also looking at the projects that we monitor and evaluate is that does it protect the ecosystem? So very much apparent on the protection, restoration, and the sustainability of sustainably managing these resources. And of course, these should be backed by, ito yung sinasabi natin eh. So when I always have conversations with colleagues from Aqua Klima and environmental advocates and climate adaptation advocates, it always come to a point on, this is a new terminology altogether, di ba? Parang for us in the developing countries and also the context, di ba? Parang, we've done this already. Reforestation, we're looking at mangrove restoration. But what is the value added of this new definition? It also tries then to put science and data into application. So ngayon, what we're seeing right now are specific tools, techniques, and methods that needs the validation on the ground, the data collection, and using of these engineering and non-engineering methodologies that needs to be in place so that we can say that it has high impact and it goes to the rigorous process. So for example, in another case, which has also been, we already co-implemented, but it's with another entity, but to give credit to where the credit is due, this has been supported by the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So in as small as 500 linear meters, it goes through a very rigorous process na meron study of the wave attenuation, you're talking about bathymetric and the boreholes that needs to be designed in the specific area. So a lot of scientific processes needs to be in place for us then to implement this localized and indigenous use of certain materials, because that's what NBS wants to do. It tries then to blend these existing systems that should exist into the local context, and to make sure that you're not just banking on the very nature of gray infrastructure. It should be a blend of green-gray infrastructure.
Okay. On to the next question. We have here. Okay. We have your raised hand here from Steven Melendez. So Steven, you may unmute yourself na po.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon po. Good afternoon, everyone. Marinig niyo po ako, sir?
Yes, rinig po kayo.
Yes po.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry I'm not able to open my camera because nandito po ako sa laboratory po. By the way, I'm Steven. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. I'm researcher and research assistant from Sultan Kudarat State University. Sir, diretso po ako sa tanong po, sir. You talking about the implementation itself, particularly in the Bataan Freeport Zone 8 and in Bayawan City in Negros Occidental. So, sir, on the part of your institution, the Aqua Klima Incorporated, sir, what is the proved NBS implementation so far that makes this type of documentation prove that this area, like for example, the Bataan Freeport Zone is very rich in the biodiversity, because we all know you said earlier that in the presentation that the province of Bataan is the southern gateway of the Central Luzon. So ano po yung parang magkatimbang na oportunidad po, sir, na when it is economic and the diverse and ecosystem with the help of NBS concept, sir, is parang nami-maintain and walang mataas and mababa po na or like should I say na parang hindi po maapektuhan ang, like for example po, ecosystem, mangroves, etc. on the part of the ecosystem. And for my last question, sir, on the part of your institution again, the Aqua Klima Incorporated, sir, what's next for your, or what is your target for the next 2 to 3 years, sir? In terms of, are you expecting, sir, that na aside these two na natakal today, you are going to have an NBS study in Visayas and Mindanao or throughout the Philippines. Maaari po kayong mag-give ng exact figure on future plans nyo po, like you say from next year at the 2030 po, sir. Thank you po and good afternoon po sa ating.
So maraming salamat po, Sir Steven, for the questions. So I've noted two questions. The first one is about how we try then to balance the competing interests of different stakeholders at different levels of governance. So ako po pupunta po ako sa perspective na bilang Pilipino, you're looking at the implementation of NBS that needs to be grounded in the realities on the ground. So very heavy po ang nature-based solutions dapat on stakeholder engagements. So when we did a similar study in North Manila Bay, ako po mas natutuwa ako when I'm also dealing with the community members, having the buy-in of not just the local chief executive, which would help then support the implementation of the project, but to also ensure that all of the community members where the interventions will be implemented would have the go signal and the yes to these specific interventions. Because we note that NBS implementation, not just in the case of the Philippines, but with the rest of the world, these are usually community-based implementation, and the sustainability of these projects and interventions would depend highly on how the local stakeholders, the communities, would be doing the monitoring and evaluation. Because at certain times, if let's say a developing country context, sa mga liblib po ng mga lugar, in the case of the Philippines, we call them the geographically isolated disadvantaged areas, this also needs the support of the communities. And alam niyo po, pag for example, isa siyang green embankment at gumamit ka ng mga indigenous materials, you need to make sure that you have the backup plan kapag, for example, nasira ito kasi it's a more let's say economical version of the gray infrastructure. It's also tried and tested, proven mechanisms for NBS, but of course it's also a trial and error at certain times in terms of the use of indigenous materials. But of course, we back it up with the science. We are backing up with the scenario building in terms of how the hazards and risk would then affect the totality of the project design. In terms of the ways forward, thank you, Sir Stephen, for asking the question. Just like today, we are about then to submit to CHED. So katulad ng nakita po sa presentation and what I've mentioned in the previous minutes is that we hope to get the approval of CHED in the proposal that we are to submit today, so that we can try then to implement this in a 3-year program wherein we have the baseline and also the preparation of project implementation in the first year. For the second year would be the project implementation per se of these interventions in certain areas, which we have identified. We have identified 3 in the proposal. One is in Bicol region, one is in Negros. This also is the Bayawan case. And another one would also look into another case study in the Visayas. So, yun po yung intervention for the second year. And for the third year, gaya po ng nasabi, since the concept might be new, but the existing framework has been there decades even earlier. So, what we're trying to do is we also want them to monitor, evaluate, and also learn from the experiences of hopefully if these resources becomes a part of the situation. To the question on what are we doing right now as an institution, so lean pa lang po yung organization, but we are trying our best to be involved in this high-level policy coordination, and also trying then to look at monitoring and evaluation projects, small impactful projects that we hopefully get to implement and also monitor at the same time. So yun po. So if there would be certain leads, Sir Stephen, possibly in a very rich region, that of Mindanao, maybe we can see more of these cases. But that's what we're trying to do as an institution. We're also wanting to advocate more of these nature-based solutions and to make sure that we are in the same boat when we say that when we want to implement NBS, it's not just the engineers talking, it's not just the policymakers who are talking, it's the society and communities working together in a similar goal, which is to actually have these climate adaptation measures.
Ayan, our next question from the chat is from Jason De La Pena. What monitoring tools can be used for nature-based solution projects, just like community-based monitoring? Ayan po yung
So
tanong.
that's a good question eh. Parang for us intellectuals, for us technical people, it's parang it's a battle of the semantics. Ako tinitignan ko yung nature-based solutions which needs to be community-based. And the community-based monitoring is among the methods for us then to ensure that NBS is actually providing the outcomes and the impacts that it needs to be there based on the logical framework or the monitoring and evaluation. For bigger ticket projects, you're looking at it from the perspective of cost-benefit analysis, or you're looking at what are the impacts in terms of providing enterprises, possibly, di ba? Kung if you're looking at certain cases, let's say for example, in a more developed context, di ba, ang mga developers natin parang they would have the rain gardens. Ayala is one of the let's say the advocates as well on the use of water detention ponds, for example, in their development. So titignan mo yun eh. It's part of the whole project planning cycle, and we're looking at it that sometimes ito yung pinakamalaga na tignan eh. The more intangible results would be, let's say, peace when you see the green spaces, di ba? You see the peace as well when there's a typhoon, hindi mo isipin kung mababaha. So I think these are the intangible, and sometimes they are not measured in terms of money terms, diba? In terms of financing, but in terms of the totality of the being of the community, diba? It's where the community-based monitoring can actually happen, and it's through NBS wherein we can see the essence of having the nature and science work together in one direction, and that's when we have these interventions, particularly for community-based monitoring, as a method for us then to see the monitoring and evaluation perspective of implementing NBS.
Ayan. Our next question is from Marvin Tejada. What is your opinion about implementing NBS projects on multi-transboundary jurisdictions? How can the distribution of responsibilities be delineated? For example, riverine NBS implementation. Sino nga raw ba may jurisdiction doon?
Yeah. So this is a very controversial question kasi we know for a fact that water meanders, di ba? It doesn't follow a specific let's say direction.
Hindi po nakaset yung
Hindi nakaset. So water meanders, and I take it from the perspective na whose jurisdiction, kasi we're also involved. Ako kay Miss being involved right now in terms of the monitoring of SDG 6 in another project. We're looking at the data landscape in terms of water right now among national or water related agencies. I think the structure we're looking at right now, since we have the existence of river basin organizations, di ba? Meron tayong mga ganun, meron tayong RBOs. At the same time, the DNR is also has the mandate in terms of the protection and the restoration. So the jurisdiction comes to pinpoint that when you talk about water and certain interventions like that of climate adaptation, which is about water change, which is about climate adaptation, it needs to be seen at the level, at least for the case of the Philippines, at the regional, if it transects different watershed boundaries, as what we've seen, let's say for example in the case of Bayawan, di ba? Maraming, when we were discussing internally sa Aqua Klima, we've seen that there would be river basins that also transects going towards the downstream, which is Bayawan, going into the coastal marine ecosystems. So tinitignan ngayon, I'm not speaking on behalf of national government agencies, but with the rooms wherein Aqua Klima is involved in participating in, they're looking at it from the perspective that water-related projects can both be seen in terms of the monitoring and evaluation at the regional level if it's not programmatic in terms of implementation. But you see, to make it a point that if you talk about the provinces, diba, you need to be looking at it from the RDC level, meaning to say regional level po talaga siya. So if it transects and transbounds into the different riverine ecosystem and also with the system that is happening right now, yung IWRM process po yung nangingibabaw. And for everyone's information, we have also the IWRM national plan already, which is in place. So it sets the different strategies that needs to be implemented in the major river basins and also the other transecting and transboundary river systems which had been raised by our colleague in this particular meeting. So, mahirap siyang sagutin. So, I'd go back to the premise that water meanders, and what happens now is that at least at the regional level, there's going to be a discussion on this. Mas nagiging proactive na yung ating water-related agencies. Kudos to DNR WRMO, kudos to DepDev, who's doing all of their, let's say, the gusto and every bit of their, let's say, efforts to make sure that we have this integrated water management methodology and approach up and running. So DALG is also very proactive right now. So in fact, they're having more of these IWRM related programs, but it comes to a point wherein we can only the government, national government agencies can only chew in terms of how we use seawater. So now it's now a trend because of the issues, because of the too much water, the lack of water, and the pollution water, which are manifestations of climate hazards and risk. So yeah, I think doon natin siya titingnan that yeah, we see it from the perspective that at least for the national government agencies, they have an understanding that this can be resolved at the regional, at the provincial level, and involving more in the stakeholders on the ground, because where the data, the wisdom, the knowledge comes from. So these are very apparent, let's say, stakeholders and implementation arrangements which can exist and coexist with the existing framework we have in the status quo.
Okay. Next question here from Anna May Magpayo from our partner at ESSC. The examples and case studies shared are very interesting. She'd like to ask Dao about applying nature-based solutions at the community level, especially in high-slope, landslide-prone areas. What NBS approaches have been proven to be effective at that scale, and particularly those that communities can implement and maintain with limited resources?
So I'll draw experiences from India, which Aqua Klima has visited recently, particularly in 2024 and 2025. For the slope, it's more about usually the upland communities would have also use of different resources for different purposes. So it can be an agriculture, they are also, their livelihoods are there, also their houses or their communities are there. So actually, it depends on that's why, the MCA is very necessary for us then to look at. Kasi it's a case-to-case basis. So for that, of course, we have seen slope related interventions for NBS. So meron din yung mga use of the species na kayang mag-absorb further noong water na hindi kailangan matagal. So na ma-retain on the ground. So siguro doon ko siya titignan na para it's a more case-to-case basis, but we've seen cases as well kasi in terms of the slope, mapapansin natin na sila unang kumukuha ng water. Sa cases na nakita ko, then in particular, meron din mga communities, sa upland communities na meron problem on the slope. using as well rainwater catchment facilities, also detention ponds even at the upland, para magamit din nila yun for other purposes. And then they try din to use these for their agricultural practices, which usually happens in upland communities wherein slope issues are also paramount in these specific areas.
Ayan. Our next question is, nag-i-inquire daw. Would like to inquire po the reference and source of the FAB data used on the research. Ayan, that question is from Owens and Parcon.
Okay. So for the FAB, so we did the study from the BEPZ history and 2009 conversion. So our team from Aqua Klima can provide the link for everyone's reference. We also put some of the references doon sa slides. Pasensya na if medyo maliit po sila, but we're looking at the strategic gateway in Central Luzon, which is confirmed by RA 9728, and which states that the goal is to attract legitimate reproductive foreign investments. In terms of the percentage data of the land and population, we have the different data that came from the local government units in particular. So ito po yung in relation doon sa intervention din coming from another website, which is on investbataan.gov.ph. So from the side of Aqua Klima, we are yet also to present this further with the PEZA management. We also invited them to be part of the conversation. Hindi ko lang po alam if there would be our colleagues from PEZA who can also give us further data, but we are in discussions with them, hopefully to implement these projects in the coming time, with of course the support of those specific areas already identified.
Ayan. Last question is from Joseph Aquino. Do we have a list of NBS and local interventions, financing partnership opportunities that can be available for small project access by grassroots, small community-based organizations, or urban poor neighborhood associations?
Okay. So, ayun, what I can say is, yun nga, hindi ko pa lang siya nalagay sa slide. So, we are also involved in another project. Hopefully, if it gets approved, this would show the stock-taking exercise for the policies that are in place in terms of the government interventions. Tapos, it tries then to provide you the case studies where it can be implemented into different ecosystems. And then we tried then to link it with the IUCN global standards on NBS. So nagkaroon po ng iterative process ito for the past 2 years. So it's not yet being released. But if you want a more tangible website or reference that you can have very handy, as what I've mentioned in the presentation, there are different accounts based on the ASEAN EU platform. The team from Aqua Klima will also be sharing this para you can have an access to this one. We also have certain interventions right now being funded by different bilateral partners. So I've mentioned kanina the Kingdom of the Netherlands in the Philippines. The government of Canada is also active. So it's being implemented right now by different partners such that of FFP and also with UNDP in their different work streams. And they're accounting right now in terms of the monitoring and evaluation of these projects that are being currently implemented. Midterm na po, hindi pa po tapos yung project, but they're looking at 6 different sites. So among these would be interventions in Batanes. There also is an intervention in the Negros Island region. So among others. So hindi po namin na ipanalo yung yung monitoring and evaluation project for that one. But I think the platform as well coming from these organizations are actually there. So meron pa pong mga ibang interventions that might be upcoming. So they're still in the talks. I'm not in the position to disclose in terms of the platforms that should be made available to the public soon. But that's what is good about the sector, about water and urban development and climate adaptation sectors, na at least at the national level, and also we've seen from the cases on the ground na we're helping each other to get the data and to ensure that when we try then to implement new NBS projects, they are based from what we've learned from the past. We're trying then to also do that, but it's not yet being released. So hopefully, in the next iteration of this webinar, or maybe we can have a further discussion on where we can have points and entry of collaboration.
Ayan. Thank you, Sir Aman. Unfortunately, due to the interest of time, we will not be able to answer all of your questions. You may, however, send them to the UPRI Facebook page as messages, or maybe we can ask si Sir Aman, Sir, saan po namin kayo pwede ma-reach out or i-contact for more questions and information?
Yes, of course. Our communication lines are open. Pwedeng ipadaan through our partner UPRI, but for Aqua Klima Inc., we are also in Facebook and also LinkedIn account. It's Aqua Klima Inc. That's AQUA space KLIMA space INC dot. So that are handles. And of course, I'd be happy then to share our email address, which is aquaclimainc@gmail.com. Our colleagues from Aqua Klima will be providing them, and then I would be providing a mobile number just in case there would be entry points for further collaboration. We'd be happy then to support your organization to also advocate further the implementation of nature-based solutions for climate adaptation, which is also related to water management and governance, not just for urban ecosystems, but for other ecosystems where there needs to be some more of these interventions.
Ayan. So, before we officially end today's episode, we would like to request everyone to open your camera for a quick photo op. Our screenshotter will be taking our photos, so everyone, please ready your smiles. Ayan. Open cam na po tayo. Wala pong magcha-chat. Ayan.
Hey, hello everyone. Speaking the photo. Okay, slide 1. Slide 2. Slide 3. Slide 4. And slide 5. Thank you.
Ayan. Thank you, Ella. So, thank you once again, Sir Aman, for joining us here for a lovely, lovely episode on the implementation of nature-based solutions in water governance. As always, this webinar has been brought to you by the UP Resilience Institute NOAA Center, and we would also like to thank our partners once again for this episode. Aqua Klima Incorporated, Angat Kalikasan Pilipinas, APS UPLB, AGGEM, AVES, Ateneo Institute of Sustainability, Biology Society LPU Laguna, CHIRM SLSU, Communities for Resilience Incorporated, Earth Island Institute PH, Ecolaya Environmental Advocates, ESSC, Future Earth Philippines, UP Jogsok, Go Parsu, Mapua Malayan Colleges Laguna, UAP, UPHESS, UPRI Youth Mappers, UP Society of Human Settlements Planners, UPLB INREM, and UNESCO International Geoscience Program. Want to collaborate with us? You may reach us via the UP NOAA Facebook page, or you may email us at resilience.institute@up.edu.ph or info@noaa.up.edu.ph. You can also catch this episode and previous ones on our YouTube channel. Before we officially close this afternoon's webinars, please be reminded that participants will be issued a certificate of attendance. Yan marami nagtatanong yan. Once they have answered the evaluation form, you may find the link to the form in the chat box below. Please kindly submit the form within 24 hours. After this period, the form will be closed and we will not be able to issue certificates for any submissions made afterwards. Thank you for your understanding. Last reminder for the audience, Resilience Live episodes have a new time slot. We now begin at 3 p.m. Muli, maraming salamat, Sir Aman. Maraming salamat din sa ating participants. This has been FJ, and we'll see you in the next episode.
We'll keep the Zoom meeting for 5 minutes to give time for answering the evaluation forms. The webinar will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.